Hey, what's happening, family? It's your man, Mark Black. I want to apologize for not broadcasting today. I've been a bit out of sorts the last few days, but just know that your brother is getting his energy back up, and I will be broadcasting hopefully on Wednesday for a hump day, right? But although I don't have enough energy to do a broadcast today, I didn't want to leave y'all with nothing, right? So, as many of you have been, I've been following the primary vote in South Carolina for the Democratic candidates. Um, to be honest, I don't really think this means as much as some people are trying to make it out to mean. And all I'm saying by that is that while I think this is informative for us as Black folk, right, native Black folk, to understand just where we are as a people, because we're actually going to look at the information here briefly, and we're going to have us a small discussion about it. By the way, fam, if you do find this video interesting, salient, important to you, please consider, clicking one of the links there in the description to support my work. It's definitely appreciated. No stress. No, I'm not gonna breathe fire and smoke down you, but if you can call it, I can appreciate it because I got a powerful need to eat sometime this month, and you can help me do that, right? So, at any rate, I want to first of all say welcome to everybody who's going to be watching this live, because I'm going to upload this as a premiere. I'll be there in the chat with you so we can chat back and forth about the information. But based off of the information gathered by many of the pale stream media outlets, exit polls, right? These are the polls that were done, as people were leaving the primary voting stations or whatever the case may be. It's clear that Jim Crow Joe got a lift, right? Got a chance to lift up his fist and, crow at, bay at the moon or whatever the case may be. Fine. That wasn't unexpected. Anybody who thought otherwise was probably not paying much attention anyway. There's definitely some interesting things that occurred in South Carolina, and we'll go over those two as well. But let's take a look at the exit poll information, right? As you can see here, the split, between male and female, of course, wasn't too bad, right? 58-42, with 52% females coming out for Biden. What I found really interesting was that when you look at the information here, the way that they have the names listed are in alphabetical order. So it just so happens that Biden, of course, starts with the B, so it's right up toward the top. Plus, he's slated, right? He's projected to win South Carolina, so it's interesting they have him at the top. But I do see that they've tried their level best to hide the fact that Sanders, for whatever you think about Bernard, soft racist bigot Sanders, right? He did really well amongst males there in South Carolina. And look at Tom Steyer. By the way, just as a quick aside, I live in a deep blue state, right? Western Washington is hugely blue, even though there are Republican counties and areas primarily to the east of the mountains and things like that. So I live in a huge deep blue state. And in the primary, we have an open primary here, so anybody can vote in a primary. But I intend to give Steyer a shot in my vote in the primary period. And the reason why is simple. It has nothing to do with him dancing with juvenile or anything as, well, juvenile as that. It's because he's the only one left that's still speaking about my issue. I'm a single issue voter, right? He's still talking about reparations. He deserves a shot. Now, the likelihood of him actually getting the Democratic nod is fairly slim. But if he does get the nod, if he does turn out to be the guy, the candidate, this gives us a chance between now and November to really tighten him up, to make that commission on race much more specific, to get him to make clear demands or I should say for us to have the opportunity to make clear demands on the man in return for our support. And if he doesn't get the nod, which is, like I said, again, unlikely, we can't say that we didn't vote our interest, right? So even where you're in a state where it's likely that some other candidate is going to get the nod, for example, I think Bernard Sanders is pretty popular up here in the Pacific Northwest. No surprise there. Um, Vote who you like, fam. Vote for who you want. Don't be told, you know, that you're to be ashamed because you voted for somebody because they weren't 100% on what you're looking for. We can move people. We have the power to do that, but you can't do that if you don't vote for them, right? So enough said on that. But Steyer is going to get my nod in the primary here in Washington State. But Steyer did really well considering that he just basically entered the race, which is a damn shame when you have people like Warren and Klobuchar and Buttigieg who've been in this thing for ages and can't make a showing. So enough said there. But let's continue. If you look, of course, Biden received the overwhelming majority of the black vote in South Carolina. Now, fam, I need you to understand what this truly, truly means, right? But before I give you my analysis of what this means, we're going to look at some more information, right? Because the fact that he received the overwhelming majority of black Democratic primary voters is just one data point. It's just one thing. Let's continue to look at some more information here, right? He did really well amongst non-white people in general, but in South Carolina, since black people are the majority non-white group, anybody who does well amongst black people by default is going to do well among non-white, right? Let's just keep it a buck. Let's take a look here at the age groups. So you have here the 17 through 29 age group, 30 through 44 age group. He got 36% Biden did of the 30 to 44 age group. But here's where it gets really, 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 really interesting. When you start looking at 45 and older, right? My age group, you know, older Xers, boomers, greatest generation, so on and so forth. 59% of them went out for Biden. Yep, 59%. Very, very interesting. Of course, you see here highlighted in blue that Sanders got a pretty good chunk of the younger people's vote. If you look at the younger numbers, 17 to 24, 25 to 29, Sanders got those numbers. It's just that there wasn't enough of them that actually came out and voted to make a difference for Sanders. It is what it is. All right. So far, we have that Biden was given a lift by South Carolina by black voters, primarily 45 years of age and older. Right. And when you look at the information here, let me see if I can find it because they do have it listed here. I'm going to see if I can find it. Give me just a moment. But there was also information as to race and sex. And what I found to be very interesting was that when you look at it based off of gender, I saw information that suggested that the overwhelming number of voters that supported Biden were female, which we can see here, right? So the analysis really is that 45 years of age and older, black women voted for Biden in huge numbers. That's the group. That's the group. Now, why is that important for us to know? Because what that tells us is this: two things. One, nobody ever let data get in the way of a good narrative. Think about this, fam. I've been saying that focusing solely on the data to the almost exclusion of a narrative analysis of that data that inspires, that drives, that motivates action is a death knell to any political advocacy for us. We can know the information about our circumstances, about our historical and current conditions, and so on and so forth. But if we're not telling a good story that enables individual agency and encourages those strong individuals to then cleave together as a group, this is the type of shit that we end up seeing. We end up seeing this completely disconnected, better the devil we know than the devil we don't. No transformation, no pushing forward of anything, just simple entrenchment, right? Entrenchment in the familiar, the safe. This information on South Carolina tells us that Black folk are scared, and that the narrative that is motivating a lot of their actions and behaviors at this point is, who is it that's likely to defeat Donald Trump? They've been told orange man bad, right? Never mind the fact that Joe Biden's bill put a lot of their sons, daughters, cousins, aunties, uncles in prison for football numbers. Never mind any of that, right? Never mind the fact that under, Joe Biden, his efforts to back Clinton's welfare reform and all that other stuff, all the shit that Joe Biden has done to actually hurt Black people over the years don't matter. Never mind the fact that they listened to and were encouraged to vote for Biden on the endorsement of James Clyburn, a man who has clearly done nothing but fatten his own pockets and create a little sinecure for himself in the Democratic Party. That tells you a lot about the state of mind of our brothers and sisters in South Carolina. They're motivated to act, but they're not being motivated to act in either their own interest or in the interest of us as a tribe, as a collective. And as long as we're not telling a story that empowers them to feel that they have the agency and the safety, right, and the ability to come together and actually have effect with us as a collective, this is what we're going to see. This is exactly what we're going to see. So for those of us who are involved in political advocacy, our responsibility now at this point isn't necessarily to go out here and browbeat these people with information. I've seen our own people, Black people, right? Black descendants of the enslaved here in the United States, literally use terms like low information voter to describe our brothers and sisters in South Carolina. The same language that white supremacists would use to describe our brothers and sisters there in South Carolina. Again, you cannot fault people who in fear are choosing to go with what they think is the safe option. You can't blame our people for choosing to go with the candidate who the who keeps bringing up the one person they once felt comfortable with in the White House, Barack Obama. Say what you will about Barack Obama, but there is still quite a few of our people, especially the older ones, who saw Barack Obama as basically the second coming of MLK. That's a narrative we have yet to remove from the psyches of the majority of black people in this country, whether they share our lineage or not. There are many people who still hold that fool in esteem. We haven't overcome that yet. One thing I've always learned, family, is this, is that if you ask, people will tell you what you need to win them. What does it tell us that in South Carolina, the overwhelming majority of older black women are more comfortable with Jim Crow Joe Biden than any other candidate? That's the analysis that we need to be focusing on, family. Who is it that is able to combat that? What ideas, what story, what narrative? Because I'm sorry, but the fact is that those women will not be swayed by long drawn out declarations of reams of information and data. This is no disrespect to them, but they have access to the same data and information that we do. But what is driving their behavior? What motivates them? These are the questions moving forward that needs to be asked, not by the Democrats, that could give less than a damn about them, but by us, the people, who claim to want to speak for them, who want to be their political voice, who wants to be political advocates for them. Don't you think that information is important for us to know? Looking at this out of South Carolina makes it clear that, hey, it's almost as if the data isn't the only thing that's driving people's political interests. And that maybe instead of diminishing individual efforts, people's personal stories, people's personal narratives, that we might need to learn to find ways to engage with those personal narratives to buttress their ability to feel agency, their ability to feel as if they can make a difference, and encourage them to bring that strength together to us as a collective. We will not build a strong tribe with a bunch of weakened individuals. It won't happen. What we will have is a large gathering of weakened individuals that as soon as a stick smites one of us, scatters and atomizes the whole lot of us. South Carolina is not a surprise if you've been following politics. It was widely projected that Biden was going to get a boost out of South Carolina for months. For months. What should really be your focus if you are into political advocacy and political education for our people at this point? But what should really mess with you, what should really bake your noodles, so to speak, is the fact that with all of the bluster, all of the fire, shade, and smoke that we've thrown at Jim Crow Joe, that a not insubstantial number of people in South Carolina either didn't get the message or they got it and they simply don't care. We haven't found the lever, the means by which to motivate them to move in our direction. That's all I wanted to say on it, family. I think that South Carolina is definitely interesting. I don't think it does Jim Crow Joe really any favors. I mean, Super Tuesday looks like it's going to be a Bernie fest. By the way, fam, anybody else notice that Steyer's numbers go back here, in the exit polls, the CNN exit polls, the CBS exit polls. Steyer had a really damn good showing in South Carolina, fam. For those of you who are sitting here waiting on Steyer to be 100% of what you're looking for, if you are a dim partisan, you're a damn fool. Steyer can't be 100% anything for you if he doesn't get the nod. If you're a Dem partisan, if you're somebody who's still willing to vote Democratic down ballot or whatever the case may be, and Steyer isn't even on the radar for you, I don't want to hear shit from you. Just keeping it a full ass buck. You're wasting your breath talking to me. He's the only one still talking about our justice claim left in this field full of sorry ass candidates. Put your energy, your wind beneath his wings, and let's put some data behind this pull, this idea that black people are the Democratic Party, that we are the kingmakers, right? How is it that nobody wants to stand up and actually prove that? We've heard the assertion that nobody can win the presidency without the black vote. If we can't even influence the primary, makes one wonder, doesn't it? So are we going to sit here and continue to make naked, bald assertions about our perceived political power? Or are we going to put that political power on the line in a place where it could be safe to do so, which is the primaries, and show and prove? Sure, Steyer's not 100%. No candidate is. No candidate will be. Not until we actually make a presidential candidate. But he's the closest one you got. Show us your power. Show yourself. Prove to yourself that you have this political power that you claim that you have, this political capital that you claim that you have. Make a move. Steyer's an option. At least get him into play at the convention. Give his ass some delegates so he can go there and he can actually start negotiating for what the hell he wants. Let's see what we can do with him. I'll talk more about Steyer in future broadcasts because the man is very interesting to me. Very interesting. I'm not saying I'm a fan. I'm not inviting him to the barbecue. But Steyer is of interest because there's a particular strategy that we could use with Steyer that could be super effective. And again, I'll elaborate that on a later broadcast. Fam, I want to thank you all who showed up. Again, I'm sorry about not broadcasting live today, although this will go up as a premiere, meaning that I will be in the chat. We can have a brief discussion. I appreciate also, too, your forbearance with me as I recuperate from the last couple of days of just struggling, physically with the illness that I got. You guys are great. I appreciate and love all of you, my angry black sheep. I appreciate and love my tribe, my people. And everything I do is for you. So until I speak with you all again, I want to remind you that I love you and wish you all love, peace, prosperity, and power. Real power to our people.